Adventures. My name is Lisa Keegan and this is Fermenting Week, and I hope you're learning a whole lot about how to use your Thermomix to ferment vegetables, fruits, juices, and all sorts of things. Today I'm trying something brand new and it's called Fermented Beetroot and Apple Salsa. Now I don't have apple, I'm going to do a swap and I hope it'll give you the confidence to be able to do this in your own home as well. Do comment below, like and share these videos as you are watching, and particularly with those of your friends and family who have a Thermomix so that they can get more and more out of their Thermomix. That's exactly what I do them for, so that you may get the very most out of your investment. So let's get started with this recipe. It is on Cookie Dough. I love guided functionality of Cookie Dough. It just makes life so easy. Now it says chilies. My family don't eat chilies. So the beautiful thing about guided cooking is you just skip that step. So I can go straight up to the next button and completely skip that off. Next up, it is asking for some garlic cloves. Now I am mindful that garlic can be quite bitey, so I'm not going to go the whole hog and go 4 to 8. But if you like, or your family are quite accustomed to spiciness, put the whole amount in. I'm just going to put 4 garlic cloves in. I just know that that's probably not going to go down well here. Now parsley, it says fresh parsley. Mine is drenched out there in the garden. We have had a bucket load of rain recently, so I'm just going to guesstimate and put in about a teaspoon of dried parsley. All right, always handy to have in your Thermomix pantry, that's for sure. So now on with our lid, and we're going to chop those garlic cloves down. Those of you who have a Thermomix, you will know how simple and easy this is. It is 7 to 3 seconds. There is no chopping things up fine with a chopping board and leaving half of that beautiful garlic left on the chopping board when you've got a Thermomix. You just got to get the husk off and put it in. Those of you who have been around a long time, you'll know that I even am known to chuck it in with the husk and all, because the husk tends to just stick to the outside. And that is so fine. Like, it is just beautiful in there. It's as fine as that parsley was. Little tip though, for those of you with that Thermomix in front of you, make sure your bowl is dry. Because if you've got a wet bowl, or even if I brought in the wet parsley leaves, that water, that moisture will make everything stick to the side. And the little rebound strips on the side, the 3 indents, the little wave breaks, they are designed to make the food hit the side and bounce back in. If it's wet, it's just going to stick there, right? So there you go, little tip today. Granny Smith apples. I said I don't have any. What I do have is pears. So I'm actually going to use some pears. They're not overly ripe. They're kind of, my kids have been eating them like an apple at the moment because they're just as cheap as apples. And that was just a standard pear. I'm trying to think what it's called, but I can't think. It's just a green pear. So next up is beetroot, cut into halves and peeled. I did peel mine today. Ordinarily I just give it a rub with some stuff, but mine's actually a bit old. It's been sitting in the fridge. It's actually gone quite soft. Perfect for this today. So you can see I've cut it into chunks. They're about that size. Okay, it's got to be able to fit down the blade shaft for a nice chop. So, oh look at that, spot on. And then we'd actually use the other half of that, by the way, in our sauerkraut. So sauerkraut, if you look here on my channel, you'll see I've done sauerkraut before for you guys. We make it, it is a regular in our house. Usually with crispy cabbage. However, lately we've had a bit of a cabbage issue here where our cabbages have been eaten by things in the garden. So we've been using all sorts of other green leaves, and it's actually worked out perfectly. So don't, ever let that stop you making it. If you find you don't have the crispy cabbage leaves, the broccoli leaves as the broccoli grows, those sorts of things can certainly be used in as well. So on with the lid, let's chop this down. This is like a salad chop. Speed 5 for 3 seconds. It is literally, this is what we do if we're making coleslaw. Okay, next up, I love how quick this is. Now tomatoes cut into cubes. Now they did ask for them pre-cubed up. You could put them in at that last step. The thing is, you're going to end up with some slush to it. They are such a soft scented, hard outer fruit or vegetable, depending on how you want to classify them. So I have pre-chopped them. You'll notice my 1 centimeters are more like 1.5 centimeters at times. But you know what? Just work with what you've got. You'll see the scales have gone negative. I'm just going to tear that back. That was that lid. And then in they go. I didn't weigh them beforehand. 400 grams it is. Okay, next up, well, it smells amazing. Okay, coriander seeds. Now, if you are a coriander disliker like me, the greens of coriander you cannot stand, coriander seeds are different. Okay, put them in your repertoire in your pantry. They are very much a different smell and taste and absolutely beautiful. Okay, so I cannot eat the greens. Hate's a strong word, but I cannot stand the greens. Whereas the seeds, you can't miss them out of a recipe. They just don't taste right if you do. That's the wrong thing. I was trying to go parsley. What do I need? Cumin. Half a teaspoon of cumin seeds. Now, if you've only got the powders, use the powders. Use what you've got, okay? There is nothing wrong with that at all. Next up, we've got oregano. I thought this was going to be a really interesting mix. I thought, oh wow, oregano and cumin and coriander. Like, how cool is that? Plus, we've got parsley in there as well. But it is designed to be a salsa. What I do like about this recipe is it says only 3 days. You only need to give it 3 days to actually do its thing. A lot of fermenting can take a lot longer. I do suspect it's going to take 5. It's rather cold here. We're getting like a maximum of 10 in the day at the moment. So with that in mind, I think I'll leave mine for probably 5 to 7. And the great thing about fermenting is you can. It just gets a little bit more sour and a little bit better for your guts. So it actually doesn't matter. If you do leave it too long on the bench, it will eventually grow mold on top, okay? No need to throw it out the first go. If you can scoop it off, then jar it up in the fridge. Obviously use your discretion, okay? But mold itself doesn't mean the whole lot's wasted, typically. If the mold is growing systemically and you can see it growing down into the food, yeah, okay, gone, okay? It has to be gone. And I even sometimes draw the line at there's a black kind of grey that goes into a black mold. Toss it out. It's buried in the garden. But if it's just that little white, hairy stuff, okay, typically that's just surface. It's just the stuff that's made it into the air. And typically speaking, you can just actually scrape that off plus a little bit more. Put it in the veggie patch, in the compost, whatever it might be. Ours goes to the chickens and you're good to go again. So, but at that point in time, you do want to be putting it in your fridge. And in the fridge, it's going to last years. Once it's in that fridge and it's sealed up and it's in a sterile environment, you've got so long to use it, which is what I love about fermenting. It's another form of preserving our food. So, lime juice. I don't have limes. I have lemons. Do you know the trick with your spatula? It does work better with a TM31 or a TM5 spatula. It can still work, and it does still work with a TM6 one. They're just a bit flexy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, number one, I'm going to put my measuring cup back in place because that's going to capture the last seeds that I have missed on my very juicy lemon. So I'm going to do that. And now I'm going to get my spatula. Oh, I need to tear those scales back. I honestly don't know that I'm going to squeeze 110 grams on camera with you guys because that seems like a lot of hard work, but let's see how we go. Push your spatula. This is a 31.5 spatula into there. And then you just rotate it through your hands. And what it does is you'll find the spatula stops it squirting out at you. It runs down the spatula front. And look at that. And I'm putting it in the gap between the measuring cup and the side because it's holding, I don't know if you can see that, I'll spin it around a minute, but it's holding all those seeds on top. So I'm not actually losing the seeds into, I mean, if it was a really small seed, it would fall down there. But for most of the seeds, it's not falling down there. Now, did you know the skin on your lemon is great in your dishwasher? Put it on your cutlery drawer or in the cutlery holder because what it actually does is it's a shiner, okay? It acts like your rinse aid at the end. So we actually have never put rinse aid in a dishwasher because we've always used lemon skin. And then when it just gets too old and it gets really disintegrated, you'll notice there'll just be like a shell left of the outside. It's time to then chuck it in the compost and get the next one out. So it's really handy to do that. The other thing you can do is peel the outside of your lemons and freeze them. And then when you need them zest, you can put it in the Thermomix from frozen and you've got your zest in there. So how are we going on this? We're halfway there. Wow, I will get enough out of this. I did cut a few of those seeds out to start off with, but now I would normally do it a bit more fast, but I'm trying not to spray it. I'm trying to show you guys this process. I'd love to know if you've actually knew this tip for your spatula. As I said, still works on the 6, it just is a bit more flimsy, whereas this is quite solid, the old spatulas. Alright, I did notice there's a new scooping spatula in the Thermomix Australia mix shop lately, which is quite cool looking. I'm going to get my hands on one of those. Thought that would be really handy to scoop out cake batters and stuff. Alright, I think I'm just about done. I could work this a bit more, but I'm just going to stop. Now, I'll show you this here on top. Just get the juice in. There's a little bit more juice to go in the hole. By the way, your biggest hole on your measuring cup is actually at the pouring spout. So if you look at your pouring spout on a TM6, you'll notice, and I'm going to move the spout around so it's at your front. You'll notice if you pick it up and look at it, it's actually got vent holes. So if you are working when you're cooking under a bench, that spout there, you want to point it away from your bench because the steam will go out that way. How cool is that? So look at all those seeds saved there on the top. Not into my food, which is pretty cool. All right, I'm just gonna leave them there. Let's click on next. You can see I've got liquid on the screen. It doesn't matter. The beauty of thermomixing is that you can just wipe that off. It does sometimes think it's a finger, but it actually doesn't matter. So 1.5 tablespoons. Always look at the second letter. That gives you the indication. Yes, I have a teaspoon in my hand because I don't have a tablespoon. 4 of these equal 1 tablespoon. So I'm going to have to take this lid off so I can get in there. So 4 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a half. So 2 more. Now, salt is a key preserving agent, part of that fermenting process. It also stops the mold growing and stuff like that if you can keep it submerged and that oxygen away from it. Okay, 70 grams of filtered water. If you don't have filtered water, boil your jug, let it cool, and then use that. You just don't want the chlorine and stuff in it. What it does is it stops the actual fermentation process. You don't get the great bacteria you want to get in fermented food that does the good work in your guts. So if you can, filtered water. Don't go buy bottled water though. I don't want another bottle going in the environment that we don't need. You're better off boiling your kettle, okay? All right, finishing off. 5 seconds, reverse, speed 3, and then we need our jar. You can see it's mixing through. My table is not overly stable here. Yours on a bench won't be wiggling and jiggling quite as much as mine is. And can you believe it? Now we're done. Now it does say a big jar. It says a 1.5 litre jar. Mine are in use making sauerkraut. So I'm going to make some mini jars and show you that process. Okay, so take this off, put this aside. Look at that. It actually looks like a salsa in there. How cool is that? So all we do now is we're going to put some into a jar. You do need to leave some headroom, okay, because it does create gas. This is the thing, it actually creates carbon dioxide, the bubbly one in there. And you'll see over the 3 to 5 days, you will see it gassing up and down. And that is perfectly normal and you want that to occur. So, by the way, sterilized jar, because you don't want to introduce the wrong sorts of bacteria in there. You don't want it growing mold because the jar was slightly dirty or oily or greasy. A bit like when you have your yogurts and stuff like that. All right, I reckon that's enough. What I am going to do, I'm going to tip some more of the liquid on it because the liquid is what protects it from growing mold. It is a salty liquid, it's called a brine. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a weight on top. Now I've got a little glass weight. If you don't have a glass weight, you could put in there a cabbage leaf. You could put in there another lid, like a small jar lid. You could even put, I've been known to put a little jar inside of a big jar with some water in it. Okay, so that big jar, the little jar, sorry, it could be this. I mean, this is a little bit big, right? Actually, it's 2 things. It's too tall, but not wide enough. But it goes in there, you push it down in there, and then you've got to cover the whole lot though, right? We've got to stop the dust particles and the stuff in our air getting in there. So this goes on top. This pushes my food down into the liquid, and I can come back and give it a shove over the coming days if I want. And then I'm going to put my lid on, but I'm going to keep my lid loose. This needs to breathe. It's part of the fermenting process. It needs the air to come in and out, that transaction to occur. So then that's it. So you can see it's up to there, which still allows it a small amount of gap space at the top. You know what? You'll know if it overflows, it'll be all over your little bench. Doesn't matter. Just wipe down the outside of the bench. But that is then how easy it is to make fermented goods in your Thermomix. So it tells you what to do. Press down lightly with a pounder or a meat hammer. Add more water if necessary to make sure the salsa's covered, okay? If it's getting a lot of water, salt it, okay? So put the salt in the water like you've seen me do for sauerkraut. The top should be at least 2 centimeters below the top of the jar. Then they want to cover tightly, lightly or tightly. It says tightly. I would leave it open slightly. You are going to create gases in there as it ferments. The other thing, if you do need to go tightly, make sure once a day you come open it and burp it. Okay, otherwise you may come in one day and it may be a very big mess everywhere. So it says 3 days and then it says transfer to the refrigerator. Okay, but with any fermenting product, yeah, I disagree a little bit to the recipe. Leave it cracked. It needs to exchange that gas from the outside air to the inside air. It needs to allow that out. Otherwise, you may end up with a, okay, especially if it's a jar that's a bit of an old jars are good jars. So I don't know. But no, that's my opinion on that. Give it a go. Let me know what you think. But that is how easy it is to make it in your Thermomix, lasting a year. Do not open the jar during the 3 days of fermenting. told you I disagree with that, and serve as an accompaniment to meat and veggies. So there you go. That is how you make beetroot salsa, beetroot and apple salsa in your Thermomix really simply and quickly. If I'm wrong with some fermenting information here and you agree or disagree, put it in the comments below. Okay, I love to learn new things, and I am a lifelong learner in the sense that I know what we do, but doesn't mean that's always the best way. Maybe there is a better way. So if you do ferment food and you have some tips for me, put it below. I would love to know what you do with your Thermomix or without your Thermomix when it comes to fermenting good food to feed yourself or your loved ones. But otherwise, guys, thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope you've taken away some hints and tips for your Thermomixing. My name's Lisa Keegan. If you need to get your hands on a TM6 and you live in Australia, I would be honoured to help you get one and then get the most out of it. But if you're watching along and you're just enjoying these videos because you've already got one, then please do share, like, and subscribe. Build the channel up so that more of your friends know that there's an easier way to do life in our home, providing food for ourselves and our family. But otherwise, guys, I will see you on the next video for some more fermenting in your Thermomix. Take care, and I'll see you then. Bye for now.